Okay, so 19.5, we have to find equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. First, let's write down your essential question. How can you find the equation of a line that is parallel or perpendicular to a given line? Okay, so we're going to do a little activity in the classroom to find the relationship ourselves between two parallel lines and perpendicular lines. But to tell you the truth, I'm gonna just give you the answer already. Okay, basically, there you go. These are parallel lines. When you have two parallel lines, I want you to know that the slope is the same. Okay, so parallel lines have same slope. So in other words, you see this blue line, this is the equation. This red line, that is the equation. In both of them, the slope is 3. So that's what you have to know before you come in. Parallel lines have the same slope. Okay? And then what else you have to know is that perpendicular lines, let me see if they have an example down here. There you go. These two are perpendicular lines, okay? So the blue and the red, they form a 90-degree angle. So these are perpendicular lines, okay? And perpendicular lines, okay, when you multiply the slopes together, when you multiply the slope together, you get -1. Okay, and that's all you have to know. So let's see, the equation for the blue line is this one right here, and then the equation for the red line is this one right there. Okay, so the slope for the blue line is obviously 4. Now what is the slope for the red line? Well, you have to, this is in standard form, so you got to move things around. So first you subtract x from both sides, and that will give you 4y is equal to -x minus 24. Then you got to divide everything by 4. And so now y is equal to -1 over 4x minus 6. So obviously now the red one, the slope is -1 over 4. So the slope here is a 4, and the slope over here for the red line is a -1 over 4. So can you see how if you multiply these two, you'll get -1? Or in other words, you just have to change the symbol. The 4 becomes a -4, and then you gotta flip it, and it's -1 over 4. And so these are the two things that you have to remember. But then, again, I'm just telling you the answer right now, but I know you're gonna forget because that's not how you learn. So in class, we're going to explore, looking at different equations and whatnot, okay? But then for now, let's go ahead and move on. And really, I don't like giving you formulas to memorize and stuff like that, but that is just how it has to be done. Let me go ahead and help you with this homework question. So, because this is ultimately, this is going to be on the test, right? So this is what you have to know. The line parallel to y is equal to x, so you have to come up with an equation, right? What kind of equation? The line that is parallel to y is equal to -x that passes through a comma 3.5. Okay, so we already know that our answer is supposed to look like y is equal to mx plus b, and we learned this first semester. But then, we need to come up with a different formula, okay, to come up with an equation, okay, that has the same slope as this and then passes through that. And it's called the point slope formula. And so it's like this, y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1, okay? And so then you might be like, Miss Choi, what is y sub 1 and x sub 1? Well, that is the 8 and the 3.5. Uh-oh, gotta go back. Okay. All right. So this would be x sub 1, and that would be y sub 1. All right, so now let's plug in numbers. And instead of the slope over here, what do you think we're supposed to put in? Well, we are talking about a parallel line, and just a few seconds ago, I said parallel lines have what? Yeah, they have the same slope. So in this equation, what is the slope? The number in front of the x, which is just the negative or -1, okay? So instead of m, I'm going to plug in -1, and And so now all of a sudden everything erased. So let me do this again. So 8 is x sub 1, 3.5 is y sub 1, and the slope I just told you is negative 1 because they're parallel to each other. And so the formula we're using is y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1, right? And I just told you that the slope is going to be negative 1, and the x sub 1, y sub 1 is going to be, x sub 1 over here is 8, and y sub 1 is 5. So now let's go ahead and solve this. Why did I say 5 again? Y sub 1 is 3.5. Okay? So now let's plug it in. Okay? Y minus y sub 1, which is 3.5, is equal to m, which is negative 1, in parentheses, times x minus x sub 1, and x sub 1 is 8, close parentheses. Okay, so now from here it's very easy because we just have to distribute, right? Y minus 3.5, there's nothing we can do, so we keep it. Okay, over here though, we know we have to distribute. So negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times negative 8 is positive 8, right? So then from here, we know that our answer has to look like what? Yep, it has to look like the slope-intercept form. Okay, and so we need to leave the y by itself. So we cannot have the negative 3.5 here. So I'm going to add 3.5 to both sides. Okay, and that's going to leave me with y is equal to negative x. Now when you add this together, it's going to be 11.5. And that is going to be your answer for this question. Okay, so it's pretty simple. So then now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go straight into your next homework question, which is this time finding the equation of a line, but then now they're perpendicular to each other, right? So you have to write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form so we know our answer looks like this. Again, just like the earlier one, okay? But it says enter the answer in fraction form. So they don't want decimals, they want fractions, okay? And so, and what do they want? It has to be a perpendicular line to this one, and it has to pass through that point. So you already know that x sub 1 and y sub 1 is 3 and negative 3, and we need to find the slope that is perpendicular to this. So remember what I just told you earlier about perpendicular slope? So we start with 3 over 2, and then we have to change the symbol, which makes it negative 3 over 2, and then we have to flip it, so it's negative 2 over 3, and this is the perpendicular slope. Okay? Alright, so now we have our m, and we have our x sub 1, y sub 1. So I'm going to write down my formula. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay? So now let's plug it in. Y minus y sub 1 is negative 3. Oh, don't forget, okay? This negative is part of the formula. The y sub 1 is another negative. And that equals m. And my m is, we just figured it out because it's perpendicular. We had to change symbol and flip it. And so it's negative 2 over 3. And then parentheses, open it. And then x minus, what is x sub 1? 3. There you go. And then I close it again. So on this side, what do I have to do? Ooh, there's two negatives, which means I have to turn it into a positive. So y plus 3, and that equals, then on this side, let's distribute. Negative 2 over 3 times x is negative 2 over 3x, and then two negatives make a positive. When you multiply a whole number to a fraction, you go 3 times 2, which is 6, and then 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now, I gotta leave the y by itself, so obviously we need to subtract 3 from both sides. And now that's going to give me y equals negative 2 over 3x minus 1. And that would be my answer. So I hope you learned everything. It's a very short video today. Please make sure you go into your evaluate sections right here. If you click one more time, here are your evaluate questions. So there's many questions, and I want you to look at them and make sure you get almost all of them, okay? All right, happy learning. Goodbye.